think we can start, huh?
Yep.
I call to order this meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission. First thing on the agenda is approval of August minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Steve, second by Rebecca. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Second thing on the agenda is approval of the claims. Guess we'll start with page 1. If anybody's got any questions? And then we'll go to page 2. Is all the, you still gotta winterize it yet?
The
Or
aquatic
is that all
center?
done?
Aquatic?
The pool.
Aquatic
Is the
center.
pool all?
Not yet,
winterized? Is that-
not yet. I'm working with Badger yet right now. We still have a little bit of pressure washing we try to do before we put everything to bed, or we want to do that so it can go down the drain before we have them come in. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll have them in here.
If there's no other questions, look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve claims.
I'll second.
Becca, second by Joan. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. And we'll go to general agenda items. First one is continued discussion and potential action of Wallen Hope. I'll let you take over for now.
Okay. If you remember, several months ago, we had a few conversations from citizen request to put a memorial type or a wall of hope structure somewhere in the park, and we had a number of discussions on what to do, where to do it, where's a good location. Part of our discussion was to try and make sure that we kept it fairly nondescript as far as, not to personalize it. And there was a number of questions that arose before the last time, or after the last time we had talked about it, so you'd ask that I invite Pam Lemke Dodge here to discuss it, because she is the originator of the idea. So I guess if you guys are okay, and if anybody has questions, Pam is here to speak on behalf of the project. So, Pam, if you want to step up to the microphone here and kind of maybe fill everybody in on the inspiration behind this and some of your ideas that you have.
I guess what started it all was last year when all the high schoolers had gathered by the skate park when the whole Aiden Dakota thing had happened. And it was like they didn't really have, the skate park was a personal thing to them, but they didn't really have a place to gather to reflect or support each other. And that's what got my mind thinking, where, you see oftentimes when tragedy hits a community, people go to a city center or someplace and they lay flowers or they do things. And I thought we didn't really have something specific to that other than painting the rock at the high school, I think that you had mentioned. And I thought that was a really great thing to add to our city. I think there's a lot of reasons besides a personal tragedy, which we have enough of in our community, especially when it's young kids. We have Relay for Life, we have suicide awareness, we have dog rescues, we have military. The military people are, they're struggling big, and right now a lot of people are struggling. And I thought it would be a really great place to center some of these things around, and picking a park area that was accessible to a bunch of people rather than like a secluded area, I thought was appealing. Something that was masonry was something that was going to be like a low maintenance thing. So there was like whatever the initial project was, and then it's like there's a cool thing in another cool thing in our city for people to utilize. We looked at a couple places. One place I thought really spoke to us was at the Kitchenette Park. because it was a gathering place. It was center city, it was a easy access for lots of people who maybe don't even have a vehicle, or, don't have a driver's license, elderly people, and for the sake of utilizing the parks, weddings, happy things included in the Wall of Hope, not just tragedy. So I think it's a broad-based idea that we could really kind of build things around, events, small events, big events, or just a personal place for people who are struggling to go. Questions?
Yeah, I had one. What would happen if someone would spray paint it or vandalize it? I mean, that was my concern. Like, if we have this amazing thing and then something happens to it, what would we do?
I don't really know what you use to wash spray paint off of masonry stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, like, if
Some
there's a
sort of acid or
coating that can be
whatever.
put on it, maybe to help with that.
I think oftentimes they seal, I mean, I've done a fair amount of masonry projects myself, but obviously we'd have somebody to structurally keep it sound and put it all together. I think you can put clear coats on it, and I'm sure that helps if there's an issue with that. One of the places we looked at, there was a light close to the zone that I don't even know if you remember, because it was a little while ago we met, but it was in the kitchenette area, playground area, and then there was a part off to the side where I think there was a light shining down. So it wasn't like tucked away in the back, so it maybe would be hit a little bit less.
That would be good, yeah.
Yeah, or even to have, I don't know. I thought if, when this is all said and done, if we can make this happen, did you show them the design of it all?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you remember, because it was a while ago, and it's a pretty simple masonry structure, and I thought if we had the river on it, that would reflect kind of our river community. But I thought the sunrise was a very generic symbolism for hope. And in the process of it all, I thought it would be kind of cool if we invited community members to come and, even if we just left the river area of the structure, they could come and place one rock if they had their own personal healing to do. And it would be a way to kind of connect the community to the item. And if you brought enough, the paper was aware, and all of your park and rec stuff made people aware that it was there, that it would get utilized then. If it was just this little secret tucked away and we didn't really talk about it, then it would be kind of, oh, here, this is cool, what's it supposed to be,
I guess that was one of my questions as well, as the initial advertising and promotion of it.
Yeah.
But then are you thinking of some kind of placard, or like what would,
Well, I think just calling it the Wall of Hope is a basic thing. I mean, hope
Okay.
is a promise for the future. And when people are struggling, that's all they need is something like that. I mean, a lot of people need more than that, but it's something.
Right.
It's a start. It's a starting point. So I guess if we had something that was near it or on it or whatever, that at least designated what it was, I don't think, because it's kind of generic and broad-based, having too many words might narrow it into a smaller group of people, where I think if it was very simple, it would be more broad-based. And I guess depending on how we would promote it, if the healing of the community, and if it was you're bringing a church leader to come and put a rock and heal his church parish, or if it's anybody who would be, and if you make it public, that these people are, and that's talked about, it's like, it feels like they've got a part of it, and maybe it would slow some vandalism down if there was, if these younger kids that might be more prone to it, they have, I'm not saying they have drug addiction problems, or they have bad homes or anything like that, because everybody gets caught up in stuff, but it's, maybe that'll give them some pride in the community, so that they're not gonna wreck something.
Pam, do you have a preferred location or like a top 3 besides
Well,
Stings?
We looked at one place, then we're like, no, this isn't good, and then we decided the Agra building area was pretty congested already. And then when we looked at Kitchenette, I think we had just taken a tree out or something, so there was an area that was just kind of right there.
Right in
And
between-
I really thought it was a really good place, I really did, and I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, it was,
I feel like that could be my first, second, third, and fourth choice. Because I think it's a really good one.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe to get the community involved, if maybe, there was a survey of locations, somebody might come up with one that, we haven't thought of, or you haven't thought of.
Right.
I mean, I just thought of one where the old band shell was at Stings Park.
Yeah.
And where the tennis courts was. There's just grass there, but if there were 75, 80, 100 kids, there's certainly plenty of room to gather there if the wall was,
Maybe it's still.
just-
Like Kitchenette has if you were gonna, let's just say an outdoor wedding there, get married in front of the wall, you have a facility to utilize that, but you would there also.
yeah, there's a
I don't know.
nice brand new,
I don't know which places are more prone to maybe the secret vandalism stuff than others.
well, that at least would be in the open. I mean,
Kind of a dark little corner there, though.
that's patrolled real well there. Where,
Yeah.
if we're talking about the same place,
Yeah,
where
I
those,
remember the bench shelter.
yeah.
So
I
the-
mean, anytime you can see it, but anyway, that's just 2 different places. Maybe if would the next step be to get the community involved in where's the best location?
So the spot that we spent the morning looking at a number of different spots, and the spot that she's referring to is is between the playground at Kitchenette and the river. There, where it's a nice flat spot. It's visible, but yet it's tucked away. Part of it is that I know that she liked, and that was nice, was you're far enough off the road where it's nice and quiet. If you do want to just sit there and reflect or stare at it, you're back off of the beaten path a little bit. The one thing with in surveys, I'm not opposed to surveys, but you know that if you open it up to a survey, you'll have 5,000 different locations, and then if you don't pick one of them, then everybody's angry about that. So, but that doesn't mean that it would do what you guys want to do, but
I think of all of the places that we have in the community, there's only a couple that actually have, like, the toilets are good, if you're gonna serve food, you've got a kitchen, you've got water, and I mean, there's only so many places like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that are in the
Just a
middle.
remote place, and then maybe it's not gonna get used as much then.
Yeah, and maybe that's a better approach if you give them,
Middle schoolers, it's Veterans Day, maybe they're gonna take a little hike to the Wall of Hope and start a ceremony there for Veterans Day, or their Suicide Awareness Week, or, the Relay for Life, maybe that's part of the way on the walk, maybe they would stop, I don't really know.
so maybe if you gave them a choice of 6 or 7, and
6 or 7 places?
yeah, that meet your criteria.
Oh, yeah.
So at least the community has a little bit of input.
6 or 7.
Well, or how many you would just mentioned that has the facilities and it's open enough, and so I guess I'm just asking what the next step you thought would be.
I guess,
Well, this was more of a Q&A, and if you guys are okay with the idea, I mean, if the commission wants to approve the idea and a location, you can do it right now. I mean, you certainly can. But then, I know Pam had talked about we have to raise funds for it.
yeah, I don't
And
really know what I've done projects for the community before, and I've just kind of hooked it myself and get up donations and did it that way. That's a harder way to do it, obviously. I know there's funds with, like, the Bierman family, and I don't know who else.
Community Foundation.
Construction has always been good to me, even before they started doing that stuff with wanting to give back to the community.
Yep.
And I guess part of me is, like, if we make it aware, and you've got a fundraiser of any sort, whether it's at the sawmill or rounding up at Culver's or Ace Hardware, or wherever wherever you are in the community, those little things, even though they might not add up to, I haven't gotten an estimate yet, because I really didn't want to hit up a masonry place and make them do a big estimate and find out that it wasn't gonna happen, because that's kind of, but, so I don't really know where the finances are gonna land with it, but even if that was a small part of it, those things help people become aware that this is going on.
I think Culver's is a great one. They're very generous, I think, with what they do on their
Yeah,
fundraisers.
they always are, and I know, because I used to be a small business owner in the area, some people get hit really hard with donations all the time. So
I think they do like one a month, don't they? They pick something and,
I'm sure Culver's would.
yeah.
Because they deal with
So I think,
community stuff all the time. So anyway, even wherever, however, when we get to the money part talk of it, those little things like that, I think help with
I
the
got it.
awareness and the youth.
So when you, so say we approve it, is this a project you plan on seeing from start to finish? Or do you plan on start it and say, Dan, I'm kinda
No.
done? I just,
No,
you know what I mean? I don't want it,
think I have like pride in finishing
Okay.
something, and I'd actually like to help come up with ideas to promote usage so that it doesn't, like, well, that's really pretty, but now we haven't really, nobody's really, everybody gets tired and they don't feel like thinking about something extra to do. And it's like, oh, what, now you're gonna put this burden on me, I got one more thing to figure out. So I think, you know, getting some of that started is helpful. Foot in the door, which, I don't know, you probably have all kinds of little tricks that you do for getting things rolling.
well,
Since you're real close, so.
yep.
So
yeah.
the diagram says it's 7 by 7.
Mhm.
Would there ever be any future expansion to that?
I don't think so. I'd like to make it two-sided so it looks good
Mhm.
all the way around.
And the only reason I ask that is, like, when do you cap it, enough's enough? Like, what happens if it goes 7 foot by 30 feet?
Well,
Like,
no.
no, and I know, but,
I know. No, I don't think it
Okay.
needs to do that.
Okay.
I think that that's a big enough,
sure.
I thought about it, I looked at it, and, you know,
Okay.
when you look at some of the masonry signs, like the library,
Mhm.
in front of the high school, or, you know, it's big enough.
Right.
It suits its purpose, it can be intimate enough, it doesn't have to be obtrusive and
Okay.
ugly, and it isn't a park who wants to have it put better.
And that's the reason I asked too, because that would change where, location. I mean, if you were gonna expand later,
Yeah.
would the location change then? And that's the only reason I ask.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a patio under it or something to make
I
it
think
easy to
that-
mow?
Well, I did talk to, because I do have friends that are masons, I'm like, what would this entail? Because I was trying to figure out, well, how expensive would this be if I have to figure out how to raise all this money? And he's like, well, with the 7 foot by that and the rock and all that stuff, you need to have footings that go a certain amount deep and whatever. And so when I talked to, I think one of the pictures that I sent you, and I don't really know what you shared with everybody, it was from a company, I think maybe in Land O'Lakes, which isn't really close, but they do specialize in these masonry stone works that look like art. So I'd probably hit them up first and say, hey, I love this stuff, can we get a bid for this project, knowing that we want to have the community involved in part of the stone placement, at least in the river part or wherever, or it doesn't matter if somebody puts one here, or whatever, it won't distinguish.
Mhm.
So that would be up to them, but it sounds like, you know, it's not like it's just going to be a flat. It's got to be a little thicker to house it and make sure the grass doesn't shift it.
Is there a camera anywhere around there?
There's cameras at Kitchenette.
Because, I mean, unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. No matter what you have, it seems like
Right.
people do stuff
Yeah.
I
they
think
shouldn't
if it
do.
was tied, like I said, tied to the community, personally tied to, you know, we lost at least three high schoolers last year. All the community, the kids, the families, you know, linking that keeps this community pride thing going and makes it personal. It's not just, you know, 22 soldiers kill themselves every day, which is still personal to a lot of people. And it's an important thing, but it's not as personal as knowing somebody who fought the battle of suicide or
Mhm.
cancer or something like that.
I like the idea of it. I guess realistically, I think Kitchenette probably is the best spot. Just going through my mind of other locations, I can't think of any better ones necessarily. And I think Kitchenette is fairly low on the vandalism side of things compared to other areas. But yeah, I support the idea, and I like the idea of having the community involved in placing some of the rocks to complete it, and would be a good way to, have pride in that.
Have an emotional attachment to it, and that's maybe enough to keep kids from doing dumb stuff to it.
Mhm.
I mean, if the school did a really good job with it, they would continue the community role with all of that stuff with the kids. They could, I mean, middle school is right there, so
Mhm.
it's just a walkable to utilize it that way.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, it's just looking for a green light so that she can move forward with getting an estimate and
That'd probably be the next thing is, getting.
estimate design and a design.
Get approval on that and then figure out what it's gonna cost and fundraise and keep the community in it. I'm guessing if this all kind of moves through, it'll be a project for next year sometime.
Yep.
For most of the masonry places, just like any other contractor, they're gonna be booked out quite early, so it's gonna be landing on competitions.
Yep. And it gives everybody a little bit of time, or you time as well, too, to spend whatever you need time-wise to get it set up, so over the winter time and book it,
Yes, so,
or at least start the fundraising, however that works, whatever comes first.
probably we need to find out how much we have to raise first, so the bid.
Cost and design.
And getting it approved
Yep.
and then.
People are going to want to see what they're investing in.
Finding out what we need for that and.
Yeah. And then as far as location, that's up to you guys. I mean, like I said, we discussed this a number of times, and I know she's comfortable with the kitchenette part, but it's
Yeah,
It's
I know in the
completely up
past
to
when
you.
we discussed, I think that's kind of where, I mean, some of the older members, we kind of all agreed too with kitchenette when we talked about it. That was kind of,
Would we, like, say we approve the idea here, would we still have to, like, approve a final design before?
don't have to, but it's good practice with something like this, because you're aware of it, if you're okay, I do think that your blessing helps her move forward. And then if you, whether it's just an update, or if you want to approve it, we've done, for larger things, we do it that way. For smaller things, a lot of times, it's just keep you in the loop as far as what it looks like, but that's completely your call as to if.
I mean, I gave you kind of rough ideas. Obviously, when you're talking about natural product, there's going to be variance with whatever stones are picked and whatever's available.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve this placement of this 7x7 with the contingency that it comes back for approval once you have more of a final plan
Okay?
at Kitchenette.
I'll second it.
got that all written down?
You
Getting
can just
there.
paraphrase it, sorry.
You're not quite sure if yours.
So,
Oh, no.
your final contingent on, or it's 7
I
by
just wanted
7.
to come back to us for approval, 7x7. If you want to make it bigger, I think if you could just bring it back to the committee.
The-
Final design approval.
Design,
Yeah.
design,
Yeah.
yeah.
I drew it all out.
It's super
The base
cool.
is probably a little bit bigger than what the 7x7 would be with the structure.
Yeah.
Good, so we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Motion passes. The only thing I think with Dan, I would say with the concrete base or whatever, you're probably gonna want it sloped down so you can hop the wheel. make, for edging or whatever, so you don't have to weed whack.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, for you, just for you
Oh, yeah.
guys, just
Yeah, we'll put a
one less
gravel
thing to
surround.
weed whack around.
Yeah, yep.
And it looks nicer. I mean, if you can keep it cut always, it looks nicer.
Squared off the edge and
Right.
maybe a tapered edge.
Yeah, we'll work with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
This will be something to look forward to.
Yeah, it looks cool.
All right, next on the agenda is begin 2025 operating budget discussions.
Okay, it's that magical time of year. So what we usually do in this is for the new ones on the commission here is usually like to take September and just walk you through our budget, what it looks like, and what the different codes in our, so we have a number of different budgets that are all included in one overall budget, but I'll walk you through. If you have questions, let me know. I'm not looking for final approval because we're not really ready for that yet. I know I talked to Emily, and there's still a number of things that the city is waiting for to work on final budgets, and some of those things are state aids and some of those other formula things that they're just not quite ready to do. But at least this way, hopefully it makes everybody here comfortable with what we do, where it comes from, how it works. And then when it's time to approve, then it's a fairly simple process. I will say, I always say this, unfortunately, every year, but outside of whatever increases are allowed by our state levy limits, that's probably what our budget is going to be. So we're not here negotiating. We're not, because we don't have the wiggle room anymore to negotiate or say we want to add $10,000 onto something. If we add 10, just factually speaking, if we add 10,000 onto one of these line items, we might as well plan on subtracting 10,000 from a different one. So most of our budgetary increases will be eaten up by insurance, staffing costs, and the normal little bit of fluff that we can put in to try and help us, I guess, for a lack of better terms, afford to do what we do, because that hasn't changed. The cost of all of our goods and services has gone up, but our budgets really haven't, and that's the same just about everywhere. So on the first page, you will see revenues on the top. So each one of ours, it's zero-based budgeting, and Kathy had started this a number of years ago, but we have revenues, we have expenses. On the top left, you'll see revenues, and then bottom is total, and then you'll see expenses as you work your way down. All of these are going to have this same format, so don't get hyper-focused in on each individual line item, but for explanation purposes, I'm just going to kind of walk you through. So our typical revenues that we have, this first page, and the second page is parks, is what it's called. And I'm looking to see, this is Emily's first time doing this, so I don't know that she has them labeled necessarily, but I know them by code. She does not, so we'll change that up. But the first two pages are parks. And what parks is that's all of our buildings and ground stuff. This is the money that we utilize for our park shelters, for lawn mowing, ball fields, city forest, fertilizing, weed trimming, all of the physical exterior stuff, fixing things, vandalism. That's our park crew guys. So on our revenues, we have in the CARES COVID, that was an old one that they left in there, but we for a time there, everyone got money to help with sanitizers and other things like that. DNR tree planting grant, we leave that one as open. It just depends. I usually apply just almost every year to see if we can get funding. We were fortunate that we've received DNR grants, probably 12 or 13 out of my 20-some years. It's hit or miss. It's a good thing to apply all the time, but it's also sometimes a blessing and a curse when you get a lot of grants awarded to you, then they start to not give them to you for a little while so they can share. Park revenue. So park revenue would be fees that we get from the different user groups, softball or fast pitch, baseball, Legion, soccer, players' fees and other things like that. It's meant to offset our costs for lime, turfus that we put down, other things, those are the fees that we charge in the bills, and it goes back in there to help offset our costs. Park shelter reservation, obviously that speaks for itself. That's the revenue that we generate from our park shelter reservations. Restitution, again, is the money that we hope to once in a while collect if there is vandalism. Some years we have a lot, some years we don't. Some years we collect a decent amount, other years we collect zero. That depends on the court system, our justice system, and those who pay. Park donations, every once in a while we get just random park donations from kind citizens, tree planting donations, and Riverbend Foundation. And that is a line item that was left in there from when we used to do benches and other things like that. But that usually goes into our non-labs. So then we go expenses, and this one I'm not going to go through in detail, but you see they're categorized underneath expenses: personnel services, contractual services, supplies and expenses, and then we have capital. So before we go any further, so you'll see on the top, the very top, it's 2019 actual, 2020, 21, 22, 23. What this is intended to do is to give you a trend. And then when we get to 2024, it says adopted actual projection. So adopted is what City Council actually officially approved last year. You just follow that straight down to the bottom of the page as you go. Actual shows where our department is at in each one of these categories and subcategories at a certain point in time. This, for reference here, this is through June 30th. And then the projection, every year I say the same thing, don't even look at the projection, please. In our department too, there's time in the summertime we spend a ton of money. Obviously we're mowing grass all the time, we're dragging ball fields, we're fixing things in park shelters, we're going through toilet paper, hands, soap, all the other things. Within a 3-week time span, that gets shut down and we're done. So they use a program and a formula to project out, you spent this amount, it's this percent, and then they let that travel through the end of the year. So sometimes these projections get way too low or way too high. It just, I don't know, I've never been a big fan of the projection just because you're using a formula. That was a long-winded way of describing that, but I always do that because there are people that get fixated on the projection as to where you're going to finish. And then 2025 proposed. New finance director and I talked a number of times last week just to try and come up with a generic proposal, and on the right-hand side, she added a few new things that we haven't had before, but percent change, showing you in actual time. This is a formula that she's going to work on this year that kind of is going to help us get to that whatever magical number we need to get, but it shows you in each one of these categories where it's a 5% increase, and there's going to be others that are minus a certain percent increase, just so that it allows us to get to a target goal at the end of our time. So the expenses, again, these are expenses within our Parks Department. Contractual services, some of those things are things that if we need an electrician, which we don't have one on staff, so we have to contract some of those things out, or if we have to rent certain things, this helps us get through with that. Water, sewer, electric, gas, supplies and expenses. Within that subcategory is the fuel that we go through, the repair of our equipment. We have there the guys' uniform, services, safety, tow stuff, vandalism, operating supplies. Those would be things like all the TP, paper towel, fuel, oil, everything else that goes with it. Capital, park equipment outlay. That's if we do each year we try to. When I first started, we had 20,000 in this every year, so we would be able to replace some of our smaller equipment without really having to ask or go through the process. Now you can see we have 1,000 that was adopted. So for us, we usually try like a weed trimmer or something, and maybe a smaller chainsaw or something like that. But it does allow us on the very small end of things, or some rakes, things like that we take out of here. But that pot has dwindled quite a bit. Any questions on page 1?
I just have one. Under the top section, it says $37 for park revenue. Why is it so low? Has it just not, the numbers haven't come in yet?
Yeah, for the most part. Some of so this was through 6:30. I would have to ask Emily on the revenue end of things. Yeah, we still have some bills. There was, the tournaments and other things haven't been turned in yet. I
Okay,
still have
that
to.
makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Second page, so we're still park improvements, weed control, picnic tables, other things, that's still part of our capital throughout there, but park improvements, that's a fund that we can use for a few extra things. A lot of times whether it's infield mix or fertilizer, other things, picnic tables, trees and beautification. Again, we'll be here all night if we go through each and every one of these, but categorically speaking, this is what this is for. So as we work our way down, then it's just, she has some stats and figures and other things, percent of total budget. That's a new thing that I haven't seen before. We've never used that, but Emily's going to put her own twist on these things to help us. 2025 proposed other park budgets. So some of this is she just kind of tweaking a few things. The expenses, athletic and arts lights, we've always kept those separate. Kathy always did that. I don't know why, but it just allows us to look at that. The next page is, there it does say it, recreation. So recreation programs budget, this in summary is all of our recreation related things. Summer playground, flag football, all of the different seasonal things that we do, T-ball. Again, revenues, ticket sales, we haven't done ticket sales in quite a long time. I don't know why there's 66 actual in there. That is a typo. Recreation revenue, again, that's from summer playground and all the revenue that we collect from all of our different programs. Going down, expenses, contractual services, supplies, and expenses. Those are the expenses that we expend throughout the course of the year, or in this case through June 30th for all of the rec programs that we do. Any questions on recreation?
So there's recreational revenue. Is there one that shows like the expense that it cost, like if we, broke even or?
So you have revenues on top total, 39,729,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just follow that line straight down, because then.
So these are all the recreation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so you're on the recreation page right now. So you'll see again on the top is always revenues, and it's labeled revenues, and then underneath there you'll see the next subcategory is expenses. Total and total. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I've never read one of these before. so
Yeah.
this-
Well, you
yeah.
warm up. You got a lot of them that are coming
I mean,
your
I've
way.
looked at them a little bit, but I have a lot coming up. So.
Yeah. Good chance to practice. Yes. Oh, we ready to? Are we good? Okay. Then the next one, Mark Smith Center. This one, you can take the Mark out of there, but this is Smith Center. This is all the stuff that happens inside the four walls of the Smith Center. So again, revenues on the top, and that includes our dry floor and our ice time. And then once we travel down to the expenses, that's, again, all of the costs that we incur to install ice, keep ice, maintain ice, remove ice, put it back in, etc. And that continues on to its own second page there. Any questions? Okay. Then last but not least is the Aquatic Center. Again, same format, revenues, expenses. So I know we had been using federal ARPA, and I think that is ending after this year. That was to help offset our revenues, and this was, for those of you that weren't here, I have this discussion since we opened, and God bless her, but Kathy always would like to try and not balance, the true cost. So our pool, we make what we make. It's an outdoor pool in northern Wisconsin. When the weather's great, that thing is hopping, and this year was no different. Great year when it's great when the weather's 85, sunny, and there isn't a chance of rain or storms. We have days or a stretch of days or weeks or a week where it's 68 and rainy, or we get storms every afternoon at 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Those things affect the revenue. We project that revenue, and that revenue is projected usually fairly aggressively, especially on something like this, to try and show that we're going to balance. It's great in theory, but it's difficult to achieve that because it's ambitious in the first place, and we're relying on 12 straight weeks of 85 degrees and no rain, which is virtually impossible. So again, we do as best we can to try and keep our costs down. The closing on Mondays was a good start in that direction, to help us maintain those costs and to not pay any overtime or extra time or have to flex people in and out for trainings or in-services or other things like that. Obviously, this year at the Aquatic Center, with some of the things that we started off with the leak, and we still have that plaster bubble up top that we're working with them on whether we want to do that yet this fall or wait until we get some good weather next spring so that we don't expose a brand new plaster fix to a winter season for no reason. So that's what we're going through. So we'll have a few more expenditures, but like I said, it was a fairly good year, all things considered, if you look at where we're at so far, even with the projection. So fairly happy with that. We would have probably been we would have been better had we not started out the way we did and have to pay for chemicals twice. So that's our budget. That's it. It looks a lot more, honestly, it looks a lot more complicated than it is. Don't get fixated on the individual line items. Those are more for us internally so that we can help ourselves as we go along, where if we're really blowing through TP or other things, it helps us on a micro level figure out, kind of trends within our own department. Overall, though, most of the time it's just looking at what we have and what we can afford to do moving forward.
So Dan, then the bottom line is the tax levy allocated is always the difference between the revenues and expenses, right?
Yeah.
So typically, this would say, your net total. So the projection was 78,801, and the adopted was 60. So that 18 automatically gets allocated?
So what we do is we collect in advance and then make it work at the city level. So when the city council, and this is our department plus water utility plus everybody put together, the city council will adopt and approve, and then, what is that word? They order, it's an order of tax placed upon the taxpayers for X amount, and then that tax be placed upon the citizens and then collected by tax day, whatever that is, so that when we establish that in November, it has to be collected by whatever time is it, February,
Something like that.
something like that. So that's the money that we have to work with for this year. So like this process that we're going through right now is going to help with what the portion that we need. We are a part of the sum that gets charged taxes for the entire 2025.
Yeah, I understand that part of it.
Yep.
But then when it actually takes place in 2024, then obviously more of the tax levy needs to be allocated to Park and Rec to make up the difference, to balance the budget.
Right.
And hopefully there's some
Right. And
other departments that came in under so that we're not
Yep.
having to borrow.
Yep, so,
to keep it.
and that's why, like, this is draft only, so this isn't our final, so for the general public out there, don't use the 70-some thousand dollar number. That's not what we're aiming for right now. This is where it sits as we speak. So we have to go through the proposals, and that's what we're going to work on for the next time, is we don't have those numbers. I just wanted to use this, but yes, the question is correct. If we're asking for, or it looks like we need extra, then we have to include that as part of our overall ask, our overall parks budget for 2025.
So with the, I don't mean, but where do you make up with the ARPA coming off? So like, if 2022 you had 60,000 and you had 50,000, this year you got 30, this year's none, right? I think it's all done.
Yep.
So where do you make up that now?
So that one is going to, and that's going to be a better question for our finance director, but we need to show a truer cost for the aquatic center. It's going to cost us more money because we don't have that, fake isn't the right word, but that offset that is always the crutch to get this by. That was, and it pains you to say it that way, but the aquatic center does cost a fair amount of money. It really does. We had this discussion back in 2012, 13, and 14, leading up to making the decision to open it in 16. It's an expensive community amenity to have, and Rapids and Marshfield and the other communities that just recently built theirs went through this same thing. Ideally, it would be nice if we were at capacity every single day, so that we knew that we could make this up. But yeah, it's the offset. The pool is going to be a larger burden on the taxpayers once that magic goes away. And from our end too, it may, depending on what our state shared revenue looks like. Last year they changed that formula, which helped. It had been a long time since the state of Wisconsin decided to actually share shared revenue, and I can say that out loud, but it had been a long time that the shared revenue that we had for the previous 20-some years was next to nothing. And last year they started to redo a very antiquated formula. I'm not the finance director, so I'm not, but I've been doing this long enough and have sat through these things long enough to understand that, the way that formula was done was, I think, 60s or 70s, and it's a very antiquated process. I think last year we ended up getting, as a community, somewhere in the $300,000 range. And Steve, you were on for a number of years. What did we get a couple of years before that? 26,000. Do you remember that? I think it was 26,000. Was the year before that. That was part of the share that they were giving for the entire city of Merrill to help them. Even the state taxes that we collect and the tourism and other things that we generate. It was a crippling process that municipalities and the League of Municipalities and lobbyists and a lot of people helped at least get that conversation started, and hopefully that continues to go up. It's because everybody needs this in order to help balance this. Our budget, the city's budget, counties are going through the same thing, school districts are going through the same thing. Our services haven't dwindled. For us, ours have gone up. You guys all know that with the amount of amenities that we've added over the last 20 years. Even look at the last 10. So, and not to mention the cost of goods and services. We can't buy a roll of toilet paper, let alone 25 cases for the same price that we could last year, the year before. And that's not, we can face it and say the truth, it's not going to go down next year or the year after either. It costs us more to do the same thing. I guess that's the easiest way to.
So the complex part is you can't raise the tax levy to whatever though, right? It has to be by new growth, so you have to find like what Chad was saying, you'd have to find the 30,000 somewhere else, right?
Yep, and there's other revenue streams, there's ways that we can project revenue. I mean, for us, it's a balancing act, we need to make sure that we're collecting as much revenue as we can. We need to make sure that, from a citizen standpoint, we need our citizens to help us out and visit the aquatic center and help us out and sign up for the different activities and programs that we do, because it helps offset those costs. That's why we do user fees. We would rather those that are directly impacting our services that we provide help pay for it, so that the citizens that don't or aren't anymore, they're not the ones that are having an impact on these or participating in them.
Have we thought about aquatic center wristbands again, or didn't that work very well when we did it?
Wristbands as in?
Like, you can buy a yearly pass or whatever, and like a season pass?
Oh, the punch passes, but, well, so on those, they're always, it's much better for consumer, the user, than it is, because, for us, if we, unless you really charge a fair amount, in which you don't, but we lose money on those.
Okay,
We do.
yeah,
And
I was
we're
just
not, again, we're being filmed, I understand that, because it doesn't sound good that way, but honestly, the other part of those passes, and we're a smidge off topic here, but the passes created a whole other realm of issues for us, because if we had a week where it rained 2 or 3 times, or we had to close because somebody did something in there that I won't say ever again, they want their money. I paid for a pass. I couldn't
That
go,
makes sense.
so we were fetching that question on a daily basis. The punch passes kind of fulfill the same thing. It's a savings to them, but at the same time, it still helps us a little better at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'd have to come up with other creative ideas on how to increase revenue.
Yeah, and so even if it, as this sits with the proposal, we're still, this is fairly similar to what our request was last year, the year before, the year before. This isn't alarming or any panic. This is just a first kick at this so that you guys are comfortable with it. I said from the beginning that this is only through the 30th. We're going to have some areas where we're spent down and we're spent up a little bit. So don't lose any sleep over this, and I just wanted to use this so that everybody has a good idea as to what we're looking at and what it means, actually. We do have the number of different categories. At the end of the day, it's all one budget request.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody.
No, it was really helpful, actually, so thank you.
We'll move to the next one. Consider a land parcel exchange.
You leave? Okay. This one is directly related to and a great opportunity to our Prairie River Pathway, the connector trail. As you remember, the number of different ideas that we had discussed about how to connect once we got up beyond 9th, 10th Street, whether we go through Sawmill and then use right-of-way to get to right-of-way to get to 13th, to get to Cedar, to then use the very corner of where 2 parcels meet. The map that's included in there, this was part of a developer's agreement that happened fairly recently, where there's going to be some homes that are going in on that extension or the Spruce Street extension heading north off of, is that 10th? Is that 10th or 9th? 9th heading to the north. So when I got involved in this, thanks to Rod, who saw the potential that this might be something that would help us out. So in working with the developer and was the current but now former landowner, who also owns just to the north of that, if we swap the piece that we have with the one that they have that's shown on your map, that allows us to run that trail through that new development and with a straight connection, an easy connection right into Prairie Trails. It makes Freemark is on board. The developer is on board with the idea, and it is a home run of an idea.
So it's a swap of which parcels?
Blue and the red.
They're so you see the one that says City of Merrill?
Yes.
In blue?
Yep.
That one for the one in red that says Prairie River Properties.
Just straight up swap.
Straight up swap.
And the trail is going through where on this map? Right through, is it going through the new street, down the new street, or is it parallel?
Yeah, so it'll be on the new street, but it'll be like bike road designation, but once it gets up to the top where that property line is, then we'll have to figure out wherever the development occurs, it'll then connect straight into there to Prairie Trails.
Like at the eastern edge of the last parcel or something like that?
Or something like that. Yep, that's to be determined yet. But again, this just allows, if you guys are all, Board of Public Works approved it last night. But yeah, straight land swap. Blue for red.
I guess I was just curious, like, couldn't we just do like an easement through there, like with the
They would
railroad
have to
trail?
agree to it,
Okay.
and that was a no.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the land exchange with Freemark.
I'll second.
Just wait for Dan to quit. Finish right.
Gotcha.
All right, so we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Good.
Yeah.
All right, next agenda item is begin discussion regarding special event permits.
Okay, this one, I didn't have any, I started with this one, and this is just gonna be discussion. I wanted to brainstorm quickly with you guys here, because I wanna work on this one a little bit more as we get into winter time, but, we had a few events this summer that kind of led me to begin this discussion. I would like to, and this would probably help benefit some of our other departments within the city as well, but I want to start working on a special event permit that we would, here at Park and Rec Commission, establish some criteria and make it easier for people that are planning events to plan events, and who to talk to, when to talk to them, what processes need to be followed, and probably even in what order, so that we, as a Park and Rec Department, understand and know what they're thinking, what they want to do, when they want to do it. Other departments will, when the criteria are met as they're filling it out, we can automatically, and they can too, it will help them. Okay, we're going to have 3,000 people that we want to have at Banker Square. Yeah, we probably can't do that, but here we can kick you over to whatever and do this or that. Or if it's a, a large event that somebody wants to have at a, let's even just say Kitchenette Park. Our restrooms can handle so much, and we've done some big things there before, but on part of that, we can then come up with criteria that says if you're anticipating having more than 500 people, it's going to be on you to make sure that you bring in a couple of portable restrooms, or, the automatic thing that triggers if are you going to have a tent or fireworks or other things. There's a lot of other communities that do this, and there's really good, I started kind of printing a few off and talking to a few other communities, but I just want to use your guys' help in working on something that works for us. In looking at this, there's some communities that, as I was looking through it, chuckle isn't the right word, but I kind of, you kind of cringe a little bit because some of the processes that they're making people go through in order to rent a facility or put on an event, to me, seemed like it was extravagant. And there's others that had something that was fairly simple, which even if we start with something like that, where it's talking to Board of Public or Public Works or Street Department if they need road cones or if they need a road blocked off or something, if it's a street type of an event. Here's who you need to talk to. Here's contact information. Once they go to that, then they need to make sure that they talk to Board of Public Works, or if they're going to be blasting fireworks, talk to PD, talk to Fire Department. Here's contact information, but here's why you do it, when you do it, how you do it, just so we make it easier and more friendly for people to host events and do things, and it helps us from not only our department, but from the city standpoint to know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. Helps us answer questions, helps people walk themselves through doing it, if that makes any sense.
So are these events not just in our parks?
So this will be geared towards us and in our parks, but the overall goal, I think, would be, because we're the only ones that host events, in all honesty. The fairgrounds does, but they borrowed our rental agreement from the Smith Center for the Enrichment Center, and they borrowed some of our other information for renting the fairgrounds overall. So, what we do, we'll share with them, at least, if they want to do it. But it'll pertain mostly to us, but the idea then is to, instead of me finding out or somebody else trying to figure out, well, how do I do this, to try and get it, and I'll for whether it's our next one or maybe even the November or December one, there's no hurry on this. I just wanted to kind of begin the discussion and kind of let you know what I'm hoping to do to try and make this more user friendly, but informative though too. And that's where the other departments will come into play too. So if somebody does want to rent Normal Park and they're going to have a concert and it might be a larger crowd and they have some concerns, or they want to do this, or the band wants to do that or something, okay, if you're going to do this, here's what you need to do, and here's who you contact, and here's about how much time you should allow for that. And that might be if you need a beer or a liquor license, here's how you do that, and here's do this, do that, this triggers this. I don't want it as elaborate as some of these did, because I had a hard time following along with some of the ones that they had. I honestly did, and I do this for a living, but somewhere in between the very simplistic one and the ones that are elaborate, just to have something that helps us and the event organizers. So,
So when you say special event, what would be a cut? I mean, say we rented for a large graduation party. Is that considered a special event, or I mean, where's the? When do you know when you have to? Okay, now I got to go and look at this special event.
that's where you guys come in. So we will define what a special event is and where that gets triggered. If it's a graduation parties and things like that, I'm just shooting off the cuff now, wouldn't fall into that. But if on the criteria, we want to say that anything that is, 200 people or more, or 300 people or more, then maybe, that was what I wanted to define, is at what point do we consider this as a abnormal, it's something beyond just.
Public event, you mean, versus a private party?
Yeah, or even a private party, though, at some point could be considered a special event. If you want to throw a big rager for the Malm family reunion next time, and you have, your family, another family, extended family, and it's gonna be 500 people, you're shooting off fireworks, and you're gonna have a live band and slinging 30 kegs of beer, then we might wanna look into.
That sounds like the Wendorf.
Yeah, you're invited. Yeah. But, again, so that we, all have a hand in kind of defining what it is. And it's not meant to, we're not looking to make any more money or charge anything additionally for that. I think it's just to help us and to help the event organizers or the event planners to kind of point them in the right direction and to understand what needs to be done.
Just
And-
basically good communication with all departments then, too.
Yes, yep.
I guess it seems like it kind of varied depending on the location somewhat. So like the size of crowd might vary, or the threshold would vary maybe depending on the location a little bit too. But
Mhm.
yeah, hard to define.
Yeah, and I can use one, this year was a good year. We had a lot of events and activities, but this was also a different one for us too, because there was some ambitious people, and a lot of times people don't understand this. There was they shall remain nameless, but a group that reserved the Smith Center. They wanted to do quite a few things that were ambitious and great ideas. One of them, and I found out because the company that they contracted with to have some of these fun things, one of them was a swimming pool. And they first said, well, we're just going to do like a little splash pool or something. I thought, okay, that's no big deal. Use our garden hose. I thought it was just going to be a little floaty thing that they were doing a chuck-a-duck or something. So the company called me and said, hey, where how do we fill up our pool? I said, there's water spigot on the northwest corner or the southeast, or we can run it through the pit. I said, it's 9,000 gallons. So we can't do that. We just can't. And that's our water, and because taxpayers aren't gonna. We don't charge enough to make that, nor do I want to charge. Now I have to be the one that gets a bill from them to get the bill to those guys to do this, to do that. Again, if we would have something like this, then we could at least put something. If you're looking, here's the services that you're going to get. But if this is involved, anything that outside contractor is going to, please disclose to us what your outside contractor is going to provide and approximate size or usage of it. That way it could have saved that, and they ultimately ended up not doing it just because, again, we're not going to be responsible for filling and emptying of a 9,000-gallon pool. When we have a pool,
Right there. Yeah.
a stone's throw away, go use that. So that's kind of, and I'll again, there's no hurry on this, but I just wanted to kind of drop this one in here at this meeting just so that we have, and I'll start to put together some information and make it so that it's easy for you guys to kind of see, what I'll probably do, and I don't know if we'll do it for the October one or not, most likely November and beyond, but maybe start with an example of one that's really simple, and then I'll shoot you guys a copy of, there's some that are 13, 14 pages.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to rent a park, wow.
No. Mm-mm. So,
All right,
thank you.
we'll move on to Dan's monthly report.
Do you have any questions? Hearing none. One thing to add, the playground, they started and finished the Grueling Family Playground, or at least the physical structure of it right now, so that was a good thing to have happen here this morning. So now we left the front side of the border off, so we can get the wood chips in there and finished up. It's going to take a few days for that concrete to cure, where everything is poured into, so it is caution taped off. If you are watching this and you see this, please, to have people stay off of that at least until we get the wood chips in. We're gonna hope to do that by the end of the week if possible. Wanted this done several weeks ago. We still had summer help and when it's not Labor Day week and Park and Rec Commission week, but we'll take it when we can get it at this point. Tomorrow, Huff Cut is coming with our precast planks for OTS, the OTS boat landing. So supposedly 9:30 in the morning they'll come and their picker and their arm that they have on their delivery truck can get out 20-ish feet. So we'll have those set. Thanks to the street department for helping get the old ones out. Those were 40+ years old and they were a little thicker than we thought. They actually had to go and get a larger excavator to get those out. Don't build them like they used to. So what we're going to do then is we'll place the planks in the water first, and then we will work our way from the top of the parking lot down to that so that it matches everything. We moved the dock for just a short amount of time, just pulled the spuds out and then went on the upstream side and anchored them off there once we're done. When the street department's done helping us again, we will match it up with the new approach and the new landing when it comes down. So we're going to use the same specs as the one that we had at Riverside Park. So looking forward to getting that one done as well. And then we have an ambitious fall just because of the way that everything went this year and the weather and the rain and never stop mowing. But our goal is to try and get the paths rolling at Normal Park, and we have some work that we want to do on the connector trail as well yet this fall. So hopefully Mother Nature continues to cooperate so that we can at least get some of these things started and finished with a little bit of time to spare before what happens. I will not say the word out loud. So yeah, trying to think. Any other questions? All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Next would be to set a date and time for next meeting.
So October 4th is the first Wednesday. I do have a question. Do you guys want to do a park tour in the Enrichment Center bus?
I got October 2nd. Just so you know.
Is it October 2nd?
Yeah.
October 4th would be a
October.
Friday. That'd be a good Friday. Go for park tour.
Oh, it is the 2nd. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, park tour would lead elsewhere. You want to do a park tour? We can, or we can wait till spring. So I know that in October we're going to have budget. So we could do an abbreviated one, or we can wait till November if you want, or we can wait until spring, or if anybody wants a park tour or wants me to give them it's up to you guys. I know it does take some time. Last year I think we were out and about for a while, but
So it's an annual, you plan that annually?
we've done it each of the last few years. We went a number of years before that where we didn't do it. It's up to you. And so we don't have time to do all of our parks. We just pick a few spots and, we can look at some of the new things that we've done or look at some things that we have on capital. Typically, that's kind of what we do is make it an hour or so and just go to look at the pickleball courts or go look at the boat ramp, go look at the dock.
I think that would be good.
It's up to you guys.
I'd be interested.
I drive the bus, you ride.
I would go again, yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay. So, park tour? All right.
October
I will.
2nd.
I'll get the Enrichment Center bus set aside. It's fun.
Stay at the same time, or do you want to try to go earlier with the park tour?
It's up to you. I don't know what time our normal meeting time is. And what I'll probably do is I'll put just one item on the agenda next time besides park tour, but we'll go budget and then park tour. So if you want to, I don't know if,
So you mean 3:15 you're thinking, or?
bless you.
Thank you.
My work's pretty flexible, so whatever works.
Could everybody make 3:15 or 3:30 or 3:45 or what you tell me?
I can make whatever work.
Yeah, I can pretty much too. Should we go try 3:30?
Is that
What about Dan?
tight?
I don't know about Dan.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
He's the only one missing.
So let me, I'll talk to, I don't know when if he's got emailing Ghana or payphone. Let me, so let's tentatively do, right now, 3:30, not officially, but we'll go tentatively and I'll talk to Dan once and see if that works, or we can adjust that a little bit and then we'll finalize that. I'll email you.
Okay,
Does that sound good?
sounds good to me.
Okay. All right.
All right, next public comment. You got nothing? All right, then I look for a motion to adjourn.
So
Uh,
moved.
I'll
I'll
second it. Sorry.
You got it. I'm
Alright.
slow on the draw.
Steve, Rebecca second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.